Corsetless is a play that uses Shakespeare's text and an original score to tell an entirely new story that's never been told before. The show's conception happened when I was working on a farm. I came home one night and I was covered in mud and exhausted and dirty and wanted to be surrounded by poetry. So I pulled out my complete works of Shakespeare and I started tearing pages out and hanging them on the wall. And that became the set of the play, literally pages of Shakespeare hanging on the wall. At some point, I started to ask myself what it would be like if this was the only language that someone had, if they only had poetry at their disposal, if they only had beauty as the language that they spoke. And that's where Liv came from, that's where she was born.
They say all lovers swear more performance than they are able, and yet reserve an ability that they never perform. Vowing more than the perfection of 10, and discharging less than the 10th part of 1. They that have the voice of lions and the act of hares, are they not monsters? It is like a barber's chair that fits all buttocks.
Liv is the main character of the show, and she was silent for most of her life, and when she finally decides to speak, she chooses to speak only through Shakespeare's words. So she takes his text and reweaves it and reinterprets it to mean what she needs it to mean, and in her case, she thinks that not only is it more beautiful, but it's actually more truthful than our kind of loose and casual and soundbite version of language that we use today.
Suit the action to the word to the action.
Is your action better suited to Shakespeare's words than to your own?
Speech is nothing. Yet the unshaped use of it doth move the hearers to collection. They aim at it and botch the words up to fit their own thoughts. And therefore little shall I grace my cause in speaking for myself. I heard thee speak me a speech once, but it was never acted.
So the background of the story is that Liv grew up with her grandfather, who was a psychiatrist, and had an assistant or an apprentice who is the doctor in the play. And until Liv was 28, she didn't speak at all, and her grandfather essentially took care of her. And then when he became sick, that's when she felt moved and chose to speak. She picked up a book of Shakespeare and started to read to him.
I think good thoughts, whilst others write good words. Methinks the truth should live from age to age.
But you've never tried to use your own words.
And wisdom cries out in the street and no man regards it. Greatness knows itself. So Romeo would, were he not Romeo called, retain that dear perfection which he owes without that title.
You're limiting yourself.
And perspective it is best painter's art. For through the paint must you see his skill to find where your true image pictured lies. And here choose I. Joy be the consequence.
The play is comprised of Shakespeare's text. It is not one of Shakespeare's storylines. It's not a show of monologue after monologue after monologue. The show is literally built line by line from his plays, and it tells an entirely new story that takes place today. The woman who's speaking his language has such a facility with it that she can pull a line from Romeo and Juliet and a line from Henry V and 3 words from The Tempest and have that communicate a contemporary thought about poetry or politics or sex or drugs or freedom or appreciation.
Oh, such another sleep that I might see but such another man. His face was as the heavens, and therein stuck a sun and moon which kept their course and lighted the little O. The earth.
So this is not old-fashioned Shakespeare. This isn't dusty Shakespeare. This is beautiful, exciting, vivid, bloody, thrilling Shakespeare, but through this young woman's mouth, a woman that you would know, that you would pass on the street corner, lives in your apartment building.
I say, we must not so stain our judgment or corrupt our hope to prostitute our past cure malady to empirics or to dissever so our great self and our credit to esteem a senseless help More needs she the divine than the physician.
There's humor, I sing, there's music, there's an original score, there's a musician on stage, there's beautiful poetry, but there's also sexy, dynamic, contemporary plot lines and exciting twists and turns. So you should come see it.